Have you ever made a decision you thought was right at the time, only to realize later it was the worst choice you could have made? A big mistake that changed everything. What if I told you that one mistake could change your entire life? Think about it for a second. We've all been there. You know that feeling when you make a choice, and everything seems fine at first. The decision feels right, even though something deep down might have been telling you otherwise. And then it happens. Suddenly, you realize that one choice has set off a chain reaction that you weren't expecting. It's like everything you thought you knew, everything you believed to be true, has just been turned upside down. That moment when you sit back and think, how did I miss that? We've all had our share of these big mistakes. Those decisions that felt fine in the moment, but in hindsight were far from it. It could be something as small as choosing the wrong job, or something bigger, like staying in a toxic relationship longer than you should have. The weight of that regret is real. And for some of us, those moments change the course of our lives forever. But here's the thing, we don't often talk about these mistakes openly. We keep them buried in our past, tucked away in a corner of our minds, hoping to forget them. But the truth is, they shape who we are, every single one of them. Mistakes are a part of life, but some are bigger than others. What if I told you that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the biggest lessons? And sometimes the price we pay for a mistake is higher than we ever imagined. Mistakes, big or small, are part of the human experience. No one is perfect. We all make decisions that, at some point, we wish we could take back. But here's where things get interesting. There are mistakes that feel like minor slip-ups, but then there are the ones that feel like the ground beneath us gives way, and we're left to pick up the pieces. It's easy to think that mistakes are just bumps in the road, something that happens, and then we move on. But some mistakes leave a lasting impact. They teach us things we wouldn't have learned otherwise. They push us to grow in ways we never thought we could. And it's not just about the lessons we learn, it's about the cost of those lessons. Sometimes the price of a mistake can be steep. You might pay in time, energy, money, or even relationships. We don't always realize what we're sacrificing when we make certain decisions. Think about it. We've all heard those stories of someone who made a wrong financial investment or said the wrong thing at the wrong time. At first, it may seem like just a bad choice, but over time, the ripple effect can cause pain, frustration, or even regret. And yet, those mistakes often become the defining moments of their lives. Why? Because, in the end, they learned something important. Something they couldn't have learned without making that mistake. In today's video, we're going to explore the biggest mistakes people make. Mistakes that could have been avoided and how they completely altered lives. We'll talk about things like the decisions we make in relationships, the choices we make in our careers, and the way we handle our finances. All of these things can have long-lasting consequences. And sometimes it's those mistakes, the ones we least expect, that end up defining our lives. So, what if I told you that the mistakes we make, those big ones, are not always as random as they seem? What if I told you that we can actually predict some of them if we pay closer attention to signs? And what if I told you that, for some people, these mistakes could have been completely avoided with a little more self-awareness, a little more thought? Now, here's the catch. It's not all about the regret and the lessons. Sometimes, the biggest mistakes we make can turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to us. Why? Because they force us to change, grow, and evolve in ways we never would have otherwise. But the question is, can we avoid those mistakes in the future? Can we learn from the past in a way that allows us to make better choices moving forward? That's what we're going to explore today. The mistakes we've made, the lessons we've learned, and the price we've paid for those lessons. And who knows, by the end of this video, you might just have a new perspective on the mistakes in your own life and how they might be the key to your future growth. Mistakes are an unavoidable part of life. Everyone makes them, from small slips of judgment to bigger decisions that we wish we could take back. But what makes a mistake a big mistake? Let's break it down so you can better understand what qualifies as a big mistake and how these decisions impact our lives in the long run. A big mistake isn't just any casual misstep or an everyday error in judgment. It goes beyond that. It's more than a situation where you spill your coffee, forget your keys, or mix up an appointment time. Instead, A big mistake is a choice or action that has far-reaching consequences, ones that can affect not only you but those around you as well. When you look back at a big mistake, it's not just about the regret of what went wrong. It's about the emotional weight, the consequences that follow, and often the feeling of disbelief at how something seemed like a good idea at the time. For example, imagine you made a decision. Maybe it was a job change, a relationship choice, or a financial investment that felt right at the time. But after some time, you look back and wonder, why did I ever think that was a good idea? The realization hits you that the decision you thought was sound actually had a ripple effect that altered the course of your life in ways you didn't anticipate. A very important point to understand is that not every mistake is perceived the same way by everyone. What might seem like a small mistake to one person could be a life-altering event for someone else. Take, for example, a mistake in a relationship. To one person, they might think that a simple argument or misunderstanding could be resolved quickly. However, for the other person, that same situation might be deeply emotional and change how they view the relationship forever. The stakes, the emotional investment, and the context make the impact of the mistake very different depending on the person. It's the same with career or financial decisions. A seemingly small decision to not ask for a raise might seem inconsequential to one person, but to another, it could feel like a missed opportunity that has a lasting impact on their financial stability and career growth. Understanding this perspective can help you realize that mistakes can have different weights depending on the situation, how it's handled, and the people involved. Relationships are a huge part of our lives, and they come with both joys and challenges. But sometimes we find ourselves in a relationship that's unhealthy, draining, or even harmful. Yet, we stay because we believe things will improve, or maybe because we're scared of being alone. A big mistake in a relationship is continuing to stay in one that's toxic, even though deep down, we know it's damaging us. This kind of mistake can drain your energy, destroy your self-worth, and hinder your personal growth. Have you ever stayed in a relationship longer than you should have? Why do you think people often ignore the warning signs, even when they know they should leave? Financial decisions are one of the most common places where people make big mistakes. Sometimes, we invest our money into something without fully understanding the risks or the potential rewards. Maybe it's a stock, a business venture, or an investment scheme that seemed like a sure thing. The problem comes when we don't take the time to research or understand the investment fully. The consequences of this mistake can be severe: financial loss, emotional stress, and even damage to relationships if others are involved. Think about a time when you made an investment, whether in money, time, or energy, that didn't work out. Did you fully understand the risks? What could you have done differently to avoid that mistake? Health is something that many people take for granted. We often think that we're invincible, pushing through stress, skipping regular checkups, or ignoring the warning signs our bodies give us. But over time, these small decisions add up, and suddenly, we find ourselves facing a health crisis. This mistake is big because it can have lifelong consequences. By the time you realize the importance of health, it may be too late to undo the damage. The cost of neglecting your well-being is often greater than we anticipate, physically, emotionally, and financially. Have you ever ignored a health issue or pushed through physical discomfort? What did that experience teach you about the importance of taking care of your body? A big mistake isn't always easy to spot in the moment, but when you look back, its impact is undeniable. It's a choice or action that has lasting consequences, and often involves a situation where, with hindsight, we wonder how we could have been so blind to the repercussions. By understanding the different types of big mistakes, whether in relationships, finances, or health, we can start to see the warning signs earlier and learn to make better, more informed decisions moving forward. Ask yourself this: what big mistakes have you made in your life? What have you learned from them? And how can you use those lessons to grow and avoid similar mistakes in the future? Mistakes are a natural part of life. However, some mistakes can be more impactful than others, shaping the way we live, think, and feel for years. These are the mistakes that stick with us, and we often find ourselves reflecting on them. Let's break down some of the most common big mistakes people make in relationships, finances, and careers, and explore why they happen, how they can affect us, and how we can learn from them. How many of us have stayed in a relationship longer than we should have, hoping things would change? How much time and energy do we waste before realizing it wasn't the right choice? In relationships, it's not uncommon to find ourselves holding on to something that isn't working. We all want things to work out, and we convince ourselves that love, time, or effort will eventually make things right. But the truth is, sometimes the most loving thing we can do for ourselves and the other person is to walk away. Why do we stay in relationships that aren't right? The biggest reason people stay in relationships they know aren't working is hope. Hope that things will get better, that the other person will change, or that the issues will somehow resolve themselves. We often focus on the good moments, pushing the bad ones to the back of our minds. Another reason we may stay in unhealthy relationships is the fear of loneliness. Society often pressures us to be in a relationship, and the thought of being alone can be overwhelming. Sometimes, the relationship feels familiar, even if it isn't good. We get used to the routine, and the idea of stepping out into the unknown can be intimidating. Why do we ignore red flags in relationships? Is it because we fear being alone, or is it just hope? Ignoring red flags often happens when we're focused on potential of the relationship, rather than accepting the reality of the situation. These red flags, whether it's dishonesty, disrespect, or lack of commitment, are signals that something isn't right. But the fear of being alone or the hope that things will improve can sometimes blind us to the truth. The key here is to trust our instincts and recognize that sometimes the healthiest choice is to let go. How many times have we spent money on something we didn't need, just because it seemed like a good idea at the time? We've all made impulse purchases at some point in our lives, whether it's a new gadget, an expensive dinner, or clothes we don't really need. We've all been guilty of spending money on things that don't bring lasting value. At the time, it feels good, and it seems like it's a good decision. But later, we realize that money could have been better spent elsewhere, perhaps saved for a future need, invested, or used to build something long-term. One of the main culprits of financial mistakes is our desire for instant gratification. It's easy to justify spending on something that gives us immediate pleasure, even if we don't truly need it. The problem is that this desire to get what we want right now often overshadows the long-term consequences of our actions. Many of us don't think long-term when it comes to finances. It's easy to live in the moment, but we forget that financial decisions today will affect us tomorrow. Another factor is the influence of others. When we see our friends, family, or influencers buying something, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, leading us to purchase items we didn't actually need. What is it about instant gratification that makes us ignore long-term consequences? The desire to experience pleasure or satisfaction immediately is a powerful force. This desire often leads to making choices that are based on short-term rewards instead of long-term benefits. It's easy to ignore the future when the present feels so urgent, but it's important to pause and ask ourselves, will this decision bring long-term happiness or just a fleeting moment of joy? Financial mistakes are often born from the struggle between short-term pleasure and long-term security. Taking a job for money, only to find out that it doesn't align with your passions or values. When it comes to our careers, many of us make the mistake of choosing a path based on financial stability or prestige, rather than on personal fulfillment or passion. It's tempting to go after the job that offers the highest salary, the most benefits, or the greatest status. However, what often happens is that we find ourselves in a position that doesn't align with who we are or what we truly care about. Why do we make career mistakes? The primary motivator for choosing a job that isn't fulfilling is often financial security. We live in a society where we're encouraged to prioritize money and status, sometimes at the cost of our happiness and fulfillment. The idea of being financially comfortable is a strong pull, and many people accept jobs that don't resonate with their passions in exchange for that comfort. External expectations. Family, friends, and society often have a specific vision of what success looks like, usually tied to financial or professional success. As a result, many of us follow these prescribed paths, even when they don't align with our true desires. Fear of change. The comfort of stability can make it hard to make a career shift, especially if we're afraid of failure or what others might think. Changing careers can seem risky, but staying in an unfulfilling job can be even more detrimental in the long run. Do we choose careers based on security or personal fulfillment? And what happens when we realize we chose the wrong path? This is a difficult question for many of us. In the pursuit of financial security, we often sacrifice personal happiness. The fear of instability can cause us to settle for a job that doesn't excite us, leaving us feeling unmotivated and disconnected. But what happens when we realize that the job we took for security no longer feels right? It's never too late to realign with your true passions, but often takes courage and clarity to take that step. In all three of these areas, relationships, finances, and careers, we can make big mistakes that shape our lives in profound ways. But the important thing to remember is that these mistakes don't define us. They teach us. And when we learn from them, we grow. It's essential to recognize why we make these mistakes, reflect on the choices we've made, and learn to make better decisions moving forward. Each of us has the power to correct course and build a life that aligns with our values, passions, and long-term goals. So, the next time you face a big decision, ask yourself, am I choosing based on fear, or am I choosing because it's right for me? Understanding when you made a big mistake can be a challenging yet important step in your personal growth. Often, the signs aren't always loud or obvious, but if you pay attention, they will guide you toward recognizing the misstep. Here, we break down the 3 key signs that indicate you've made a big mistake. This will help you identify the moment of impact so you can learn from it and grow stronger. When you make a mistake, there's a strong emotional reaction that follows, and one of the most common feelings is regret or guilt. Regret is that deep, often uncomfortable feeling that settles in your stomach when you realize something went wrong. It's that gut feeling that something is off or that you could have done better. This is not just a passing emotion. It's a strong indicator that something significant has occurred, something that needs your attention. Regret and guilt occur because you realize that your actions, whether intentional or not, caused harm or led to an unfavorable outcome. It might not always be obvious in the beginning, but these emotions serve as emotional signals, helping you process the mistake. It could be something as simple as saying the wrong words in a heated conversation or making a bad financial decision. Regardless of the magnitude, your body and mind will respond to it. Instead of pushing the feeling of regret aside, embrace it. It's a natural response that can point you toward the changes you need to make. Don't beat yourself up for feeling guilty. Instead, reflect on what you could have done differently and take responsibility. This doesn't mean staying stuck in regret. It means acknowledging the mistake so you can learn from it. Another clear sign that you've made a significant mistake is a shift in your circumstances. Big mistakes often cause changes in your life that you cannot ignore. These changes act as external indicators of the mistake, and they are difficult to deny. If your actions have caused someone to lose trust in you, whether it's a friend, partner, or colleague, this is a major red flag. Trust is the foundation of all meaningful relationships, and when it's broken, the consequences are often profound. You may notice that people around you start to distance themselves, or that their behavior changes toward you. These shifts are a clear external sign that something went wrong. A poor financial decision, whether it's overspending, taking on bad debt, or failing to plan for future expenses, can result in a significant shift in your financial stability. If you find yourself struggling with money or dealing with the fallout of a poor investment, it's a sign that a mistake has occurred. These financial repercussions are usually felt in the pocketbook, and they push you to confront the consequences of your choices head-on. Whether it's a romantic relationship, family bond, or friendship, mistakes can cause damage that can break these connections. If you find yourself suddenly disconnected from someone who once meant a lot to you, it could be the result of something you did. The pain and emotional distance that follow are often the loudest external indicators that your actions have led to a significant mistake. Acknowledge the reality of the situation. Don't ignore or minimize what's happening. Instead, assess the situation honestly and begin to work on mending what's been broken, whether it's repairing trust, getting back on track financially, or healing a relationship. Taking responsibility for the change you're facing is the first step toward resolution and improvement. Overthinking is another common symptom of having made a big mistake. After a mistake, your mind tends to replay the event over and over again, often questioning where things went wrong or how you could have acted differently. Let's talk about overthinking. Overthinking is when you find yourself obsessing over a situation, constantly revisiting it in your mind, analyzing every detail of what happened, and wondering what you could have done to avoid the mistake. It's almost as though your mind is stuck on repeat, going through the motions of the mistake again and again. Overthinking is your mind's way of processing the impact of the mistake. It's a natural defense mechanism to try and make sense of what went wrong. In many cases, overthinking happens because we're looking for an answer or a solution. We want to fix the situation, but we're uncertain about how to move forward. Overthinking isn't inherently bad. In fact, it can help you reflect on what happened, learn from it, and figure out what you should do next. However, when overthinking becomes repetitive and unproductive, it can lead to stress and anxiety. The key is to recognize when you're stuck in this cycle and start taking proactive steps to resolve the issue. To break the cycle of overthinking, focus on taking small actions. Instead of dwelling on the past, ask yourself, what's the next step I can take to move forward? It might be an apology, a financial adjustment, or a personal change. Taking action helps reduce the anxiety of overthinking and puts you on a path to healing. Recognizing when you've made a big mistake is an essential part of personal growth. The feelings of regret, the changes in your circumstances, and the constant overthinking are powerful indicators that it's time to reflect, take responsibility, and make necessary changes. Remember, mistakes are part of being human, and learning how to identify and deal with them is a step toward becoming a better version of yourself. So, the next time you find yourself experiencing one of these signs, don't shy away from it. Instead, use it as an opportunity to learn, grow, and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Every mistake is a lesson in disguise. Embrace it and grow from it. Sure, here's an expanded and more detailed version of the impact of big mistakes for your viewers, broken down in. Big mistakes often leave us with heavy emotional baggage. At first, we might feel overwhelmed by the weight of what's happened. It's natural to feel anxiety creeping in when things don't go the way we hoped. It can feel like a heavy cloud hanging over your head. You may even experience self-doubt, questioning your abilities or worth because of that one decision. But here's the thing. While these emotions are tough to handle, they don't have to define us. The key is how we handle these emotions. Instead of letting anxiety paralyze you, use it as a tool for self-reflection. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? What did I learn from this mistake? This can lead to growth if we channel it correctly. Anxiety can push us to make changes we've been avoiding. Self-doubt can motivate us to do better next time and build resilience. Feeling stuck often prompts a desire to do things differently, leading to personal development. The journey might feel tough at first, but this emotional toll can eventually help us develop emotional intelligence. By confronting our feelings head-on, we learn how to deal with setbacks better in the future, and that's how we grow. Mistakes in relationships can feel like the end of the world at first. Whether to fight with a loved one, a broken trust, or saying something hurtful in the heat of the moment, mistakes can deeply affect the bonds we share with others. These moments can create emotional distance and lead to feelings of isolation or regret. And sometimes, it feels like we've damaged something beyond repair. But here's a humbling truth. Relationships are built on learning from each other, and mistakes can be part of that process. While some mistakes in relationships can take time to heal, they don't necessarily have to be the end of the road. With care, patience, and open communication, there's often a way to rebuild what was broken. When we make mistakes in relationships, we often learn valuable lessons about how to communicate better. We learn the importance of listening, understanding, and being there for each other during tough times. These lessons can actually strengthen the relationship. A breakdown in communication during a mistake teaches us to communicate with more clarity and empathy next time. Apologizing sincerely and being vulnerable can repair trust. Forgiveness helps both parties grow stronger and closer. So, while a big mistake might feel like it's pulling you apart from someone, with the right effort, it can be a powerful opportunity to deepen your connection and become more understanding of each other. In the professional world, a mistake can sometimes feel like it's derailing everything, whether it's a bad investment, a poor decision, or an action that costs your company or career dearly. The fear of making a mistake in your career can be overwhelming because of the potential consequences. This can include a loss of income, a lost opportunity, or even a damaged reputation. But mistakes don't have to define your professional future. In fact, they can be an invaluable learning experience. The key is to approach it with humility and take responsibility. By doing so, you can gain the trust of others and learn from your missteps. Sometimes mistakes in our careers or finances open our eyes to new possibilities. Maybe a failed project sparks an idea for something even bigger and better. Perhaps it leads to discovering a new direction or skill you didn't know you had. What's most important is how we respond to the mistake. The best professionals and leaders aren't those who never make mistakes, but those who learn from their failures and grow stronger from them. Financial mistakes can teach us about budgeting, investments, and risk management. Career mistakes help us sharpen our decision-making skills and think more strategically next time. Failure often leads to better choices, stronger leadership, and wiser approaches in the future. A mistake at work or in business may feel devastating at first, but it's often a stepping stone to a more successful and fulfilling career. If we stay calm, learn, and adapt, we can find new opportunities where we thought there were none. In the end, mistakes are an inevitable part of life, and their impact can be both painful and transformative. The emotional toll can drive personal growth. Relationship strain can lead to stronger, more open bonds, and career or financial consequences can teach us valuable lessons that ultimately make us better at what we do. It's important to remember that no mistake is ever truly wasted if we learn from it. Every misstep is a chance to become wiser, more compassionate, and more capable in all areas of our lives. So, the next time you find yourself facing the aftermath of a big mistake, take a deep breath, acknowledge the pain, reflect on the lesson, and then take action toward growth and improvement. You've got this. The very first step in overcoming a big mistake is to own it. This means acknowledging that something went wrong and taking full responsibility for it. It can be very difficult to admit when we've made a mistake, especially when emotions are involved or when the consequences are severe. However, this acknowledgement is the foundation for growth. Self-awareness means being honest with yourself about what happened, why it happened, and how it impacted others. This level of honesty helps you move beyond denial, which can trap you in the past, preventing progress. Understanding your role in the mistake helps you pinpoint what exactly needs to change. Without self-awareness, we can fall into the trap of repeating the same errors because we never stop to truly reflect on what went wrong. Taking accountability is about owning your actions, no matter how hard it is to face the consequences. This step is essential because it shows maturity and emotional strength. By acknowledging what went wrong and not trying to deflect blame onto others or circumstances, you build trust with yourself and others. This honesty creates a sense of peace that allows you to take the next steps towards healing and growth. If your mistake has caused harm to others, one of the most important things you can do is apologize. An apology is more than just a simple "I'm sorry." It's about recognizing the pain you've caused, showing empathy, and offering a heartfelt expression of regret. A genuine apology doesn't try to justify or excuse a mistake. Instead, it acknowledges the impact it had on the other person. A sincere apology can heal wounds that words alone might not be able to touch. It conveys a deep sense of accountability and shows that you are willing to right the wrong. It's important to recognize that an apology is not just for the other person, it's for you too. It's a way of letting go of the burden of guilt and starting the process of rebuilding trust, whether it's in a personal relationship, a professional one, or even with yourself. After apologizing, the next step is to make amends if possible. This means doing what you can to make things right. It could involve changing a specific behavior, offering to fix the damage you've caused, or doing something thoughtful to show your commitment to doing better. Making amends is not about expecting forgiveness, but about demonstrating that you're willing to take actions that reflect your words. This process may take time, but it's important to show a clear commitment to change. One of the most valuable aspects of making a mistake is that it can serve as a powerful learning tool. Every mistake has a lesson attached to it. It's an opportunity to reflect, grow, and make sure you don't repeat the same error in the future. When you ask yourself, what could I have done differently? You open up the door to learning and self-improvement. It's easy to get caught up in the emotions of a mistake and feel stuck in regret. But in order to learn from it, you need to ask yourself thoughtful questions like, what led me to make this choice? What emotions influenced my decision? Did I take the time to consider all possible outcomes? These types of questions help you dissect your decisions and understand what contributed to the mistake. Once you learn from it, you're better equipped to handle similar situations in the future, making wiser choices along the way. When you reflect on a mistake with a mindset of learning rather than shame, you can use that experience to enhance your judgment, decision-making, and emotional intelligence. Learning from mistakes doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means looking at them with curiosity and using that insight to grow stronger and more capable. Stay positive and keep moving forward. It's all too easy to get stuck in a cycle of regret after making a big mistake. You might find yourself ruminating on what went wrong, wishing you could go back and change it. But regret, if not managed, can be paralyzing. It can prevent you from moving forward and trap you in the past. However, the key to overcoming a mistake is to learn how to move forward, even when it feels difficult. One of the most important skills in overcoming mistakes is learning to shift from regret to action. This means focusing on what you can do next instead of staying stuck in the what-ifs. Every person you admire, from leaders to creatives to entrepreneurs, has made big mistakes. But what sets them apart is their ability to rise above their mistakes, learn from them, and keep going. They don't let their failures define them. Staying positive doesn't mean ignoring your mistake or pretending it didn't happen. It means focusing on the bigger picture and reminding yourself that failure is not the end. It's just a part of the journey. Every challenge you face, every mistake you make, is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. Maintaining a positive attitude during tough times helps you stay resilient, which in turn helps you bounce back quicker and more effectively. The power of persistence. The road to success is rarely a straight line. It's filled with detours, obstacles, and mistakes. But the key to overcoming any challenge is persistence. If you stay focused on your goals and keep putting in the effort, you'll eventually see progress. Remember, some of the world's most successful people have faced failure countless times before reaching their achievements. The difference is they didn't give up. They kept moving forward, no matter the setbacks. Overcoming a big mistake isn't about erasing it from your memory or pretending it didn't happen. It's about accepting responsibility, learning the valuable lessons it offers, and using it to fuel your growth. By staying self-aware, making amends, learning from your mistakes, and maintaining a positive attitude, you turn your setbacks into stepping stones. Your mistakes don't define you. They're simply part of the process that helps you grow into the person you're meant to be. Remember, the biggest mistake is not the one you made, but the one you don't learn from. Keep moving forward with humility, self-awareness, and the determination to improve. Remember, the biggest mistake is not the one you make, but the one you don't learn from. Embrace your mistakes as part of your journey. Mistakes are an inevitable part of life, yet society often teaches us to fear them or avoid them at all costs. But what if I told you that mistakes are actually stepping stones to success? It's true. The most successful people in the world didn't get there by avoiding mistakes. They embrace them, learn from them, and use them to fuel their growth. When you make a mistake, it's a sign that you've tried something new, stepped out of your comfort zone, or challenged the status quo. Mistakes show that you are living life and engaging with it. It's when we refuse to acknowledge our mistakes or learn from them that they truly become a burden. The real big mistake is not the error itself, but the failure to reflect, learn, and grow from it. Think about it. We often waste time trying to run from mistakes, but in truth, they hold valuable lessons that can teach us how to make better decisions in the future. Each time we fall, we gain more understanding of ourselves, others, and the world around us. So, when you make a mistake, instead of looking at it as something that holds you back, see it as an opportunity to improve. Embrace it as part of your journey, because without those lessons, you wouldn't be the person you are today. The next time you make a big mistake, don't despair. You just unlocked a lesson that will make you better, stronger, and more prepared for whatever comes next. It's easy to feel discouraged or disheartened when we make a big mistake. The immediate emotions of regret, guilt, and frustration can cloud our judgment, making us feel like we failed. But in those moments, it's crucial to remind ourselves that mistakes are not the end of the road. They are, in fact, the beginning of something new. Every big mistake you make is a lesson waiting to be discovered. It's a chance to reflect on your actions, to dig deeper into what went wrong, and to figure out how to avoid repeating the same mistake in the future. So, instead of seeing it as a setback, consider an invaluable learning experience that prepares you for what's ahead. Think about the times when you faced challenges and felt like you couldn't go on. Now, look at how much stronger you are because of those struggles. The same applies to mistakes. Every time you pick yourself back up after falling, you build resilience. You learn how to handle setbacks with grace and come out on the other side with even more wisdom than before. So, the next time you make a big mistake, instead of dwelling on how it happened, shift your mindset to what you can learn from it. What does this experience teach you about yourself? What can you do differently next time? How can you use this mistake to grow stronger and more prepared for the next chapter of your life? Have you ever made a big mistake that changed your life? Share your story in the comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more inspiring stories like this. Your journey is unique, and so are your mistakes. Every single one of us has faced challenges, made errors in judgment, or stumbled in our path. But it's in sharing these stories, reflecting on them, and discussing them openly that we truly learn and grow together. So, let me ask you, have you ever made a big mistake that changed the course of your life? Maybe it was a choice in your career, a relationship, or a decision that you thought was small at the time, but ended up having major consequences. Whatever it was, your story matters. By sharing your experiences in the comments, you not only inspire others who may be facing similar struggles, but you also build a community of people who understand that mistakes are part of being human. It's through this collective understanding that we can break the stigma around mistakes and create a space where we can all learn from one another. By embracing mistakes, learning from them, and sharing our experiences, we take the power out of failure and turn it into success. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about evolving, learning, and becoming better with every step. So, the next time you make a mistake, take a deep breath, learn the lesson, and move forward with confidence. You've got this. Remember, the biggest mistake is not the one you make, but the one you don't learn from. Embrace your failures because they lead you to success. And don't forget to hit that like button if you found this video helpful. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that inspire, motivate, and help you grow. And make sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on the next powerful lesson that could change the way you approach life's challenges.